Have you ever been consumed by that single nagging question, what are they thinking about me? Until your mind spirals with every possible negative scenario. Maybe it's the gut punch when your boss gives you a disapproving look, or the disappointment when a friend bails on your plans at the last minute. Picture for a moment what life would feel like if you could instantly release that stress instead of marinating in it. That's the promise behind Mel Robbins' groundbreaking Let Them theory. At first glance, let them might seem like an oversimplification, yet it's the key to diffusing criticism, gossip, disappointment, and even petty annoyances that derail your peace. But guess what? It's only half the story. The second hidden step, let me, is the real game changer, ensuring you don't just give up and let people walk all over you. Instead, you step into your own power, reclaim the mental energy you've been surrendering, and forge deeper, more authentic connections. This idea exploded into the mainstream thanks to a last-minute high school prom fiasco that led to an entire global movement, viral posts, millions of shares, and even tattoos to prove it. In this video, we'll dive deep into part one of this approach, covering stop wasting your life on things you can't control, and let them plus let me. We'll unravel why obsessing over other people's opinions keeps you locked in a never-ending hamster wheel of stress, and show you exactly how to hop off. Ready to discover the overlooked secret that can turn you from a serial people-pleaser into the driver of your own life? Stick around, because it's all coming up next. Chapter 1. Stop wasting your life on things you can't control. In the first chapter of the book, Mel Robbins shares a personal story that might sound innocent, helping her son Oakley get ready for his high school prom. She'd gone through 2 proms already with her daughters, and each time was an emotional roller coaster. Dresses, hairstyles, corsages, stressful promposals, all of it. With Oakley, she secretly hoped for a smoother ride. Well, she was wrong. Oakley was the polar opposite of his sisters. No months-long prep, no color-coordinated accessories locked down weeks ahead. He didn't even confirm he wanted to go until the week of prom. Can you imagine the parental panic? Mel Robbins was racing around to get the tuxedo, the right sneakers, sort out a date, secure logistics for pre-prom photos, post-prom parties, you name it. It was like a high-speed chase against time. Now, from the outside looking in, you might think, hey, we all do last-minute stuff sometimes, no big deal. But consider the stakes for a parent, especially one with 2 older daughters who needed months of planning. The tension's already there. There's a million details swirling. Come prom day, Mel had meticulously chosen a gorgeous corsage. She was sure Oakley's date would love it. But Oakley told her, Mom, she doesn't want a corsage, don't bring it. Mel, being in full mom-fix-it mode, insisted. She reasoned, what if the girl changes her mind? I'll just bring it, and if she wants it, it's there. Oakley was not having it. I've totally been in that scenario, maybe not with a corsage, but with a gift or a plan we know the other person should appreciate because we spent time or money on it. Yet they explicitly said, nah, I'm good. It stings, right? Well, you can see how Mel's genuine desire to be helpful collided with Oakley's request to let it be. That's a key phrase, let it be. But ironically, she did the opposite. She took the corsage anyway. And guess what? It turned out the girl had already made her own corsage, which she was proudly wearing. Cue the awkward moment. Now there are 2 corsages in the picture, Oakley's look of frustration and Mel's realization. Oh man, I should have listened. Next bombshell, the kids hadn't planned where to eat dinner before the prom. This is a big deal to many parents. You want the perfect dinner reservations, the perfect photos. But Oakley and his crew were nonchalantly chatting about going to a tiny taco spot. Meanwhile, the sky opens up and it starts pouring rain. No umbrellas, no plan, and no sense of urgency from these teens. They're like, sure, let's go get tacos. Parents are freaking out and Mel's instincts roar. Check if the local restaurants have a table for 20. Everyone else's parents swirl around with suggestions. Meanwhile, the teens are chill. To them, a little rain, no problem, but to the parents, one look at those fancy dresses and slick tuxedos is enough to imagine waterlogged nightmares. This is where the micromanagement mania peaked. Mel was hunting for a last-minute large group reservation. Parents were herding kids like anxious mother hens. Chaos. Finally, Mel's older daughter, Kendall, basically pulls her aside and says, Mom, let them. It's their prom, not yours. Let them get soaked. Let them ruin their fancy sneakers. Just let them. In that moment, something clicked. Mel Robbins realized the insane amount of energy she was pouring into controlling every tiny detail, when in truth, it wasn't her event or her call. She softened immediately. She literally handed Oakley some cash for tacos and told him, have a great night. The relief, instant. The relaxation, off the charts. She realized that by letting Oakley and his friends handle their own night, rain and all, she was setting herself free from pointless stress. The rest of the night, that phrase, "let them," kept echoing in Mel's mind. She started to apply it to everything. A store not having a bagel flavor she wanted, a relative criticizing a life choice, a colleague who was moody. Each time she'd mentally say, let them be who they are, let them do what they're doing. And guess what? Her stress melted away. She discovered that a massive part of our internal turmoil comes from resisting what other people decide to do. We try to mold them, change them, or appease them. But letting them live and focusing on yourself is like dropping a heavy backpack you've been carrying for years. Now, from this single example, the prom fiasco, came a viral social media moment. Mel posted a 60-second video about Let Them online, and it exploded. People from all over the world resonated with it. They started telling their own stories, how letting go of controlling others helped them breathe easier. Therapists, psychologists, everyday folks all hopped in. The concept turned into a movement with hashtags, articles, even Let Them tattoos. That's how universal the relief was. Everyone recognized that controlling others is a losing battle, and Let Them was the permission slip to stop fighting it. Stop wasting your life on the uncontrollable. You can't control or change other people's moods, choices, or opinions. What you can do is control your own reactions. Now, if Chapter 1 was simply let them, you might think, great, so I'll just let people walk all over me. Absolutely not. Here's the twist that many people on social media missed. There's a second half to the equation, let me. And that's exactly what we dive into in Chapter 2. This is where the real power move happens, so stick around. We're about to open a new door to personal responsibility that makes let them so much more than a casual catchphrase. Chapter 2, Let Them plus Let Me. In this chapter, we uncover the second half of this entire philosophy. Let me. Because yes, let them is powerful, but it's only the beginning. If you just say, let them, you might detach from drama but could end up isolated or resentful. Let's break down how that happens. According to Mel Robbins' next discussion, if we only say, let them, we risk feeling superior in a snooty way or even lonely. It's like, I'm above all this nonsense. That might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't solve the deeper issue of how you want to show up. It's about accountability. Let them is emotional freedom from other people's choices. Let me is stepping up to the plate and owning your own life. It's like setting down the burden of controlling others, only to pick up the much more rewarding task of guiding yourself. Mel shares a vulnerable anecdote. She saw pictures of a girl's weekend online. Her friends were out together having a blast, and she wasn't invited. Instantly, that pang of rejection set in. Why wasn't I included? Did I do something wrong? You scroll photo after photo, feeling more and more left out. If she'd only said, let them, she might coolly shrug. Fine, let them have fun, I don't need them. That's the faux superiority trap. It soothes the sting temporarily, but deeper down, she'd still feel lonely or resentful. Instead, Let Me made her ask, when's the last time I reached out? Have I kept in touch? Let me look at my role here. She realized she'd been so busy with work and life that she hadn't been putting in the effort to maintain those friendships. Suddenly, the responsibility was clear. If you want a vibrant social life, you have to invest in your relationships. This is no longer about their choices. It's about how you choose to nurture or neglect your connections. This is a big aha moment for many folks. We see we're not just victims of being forgotten. Sometimes we forgot others first. Let Them gave the initial emotional detachment, no meltdown or blaming them. But Let Me helped her see the path forward, reconnect, host a get-together, send a personal message. Instead of playing defense, you go on offense for your own happiness. In Chapter 2, Mel references the fear factor. We fear rejection or conflict, so we try to manipulate or manage others to prevent the very discomfort we dread. This can show up in relationships, offices, family gatherings, anywhere. Unfortunately, the more you try to control something you can't control, the more anxious and resentful you become. It's a classic paradox. You're fighting a rigged battle and losing it every time. Let's be honest. If you've ever tried to plan a family vacation and ensure every single person is thrilled with every single activity, you know that feeling of near-certain failure. Instead of truly enjoying the trip, you become the anxiety-laden cruise director. Mel points out how Let Them plus Let Me echoes Stoicism, focusing on what's within your control, Buddhism and radical acceptance, suffering arises from resisting reality, and detachment theory, stepping back from emotional overwhelm. The brilliance is that she's turned these concepts into a snappy, practical phrase you can deploy in the moment. And the moment you see someone else's behavior you hate, or you feel that wave of insecurity, immediately say, let them. Then pivot to let me. Let them do whatever. Now let me decide what matters to me. That's your seat of power. Mel uses a seesaw to illustrate how let them and let me balance each other. If someone does something upsetting, your negative reaction weighs you down. That's how you end up feeling less than. Saying let them mentally lifts you up, almost giving you a brief sense of rising above them. But if you only say let them, you might be left hanging in the air, lonely, arms folded, feeling smug but unfulfilled. Let me brings genuine balance. It's how you come back to eye level, acknowledging that you have work to do on yourself, boundaries to set, or steps to take that serve you best. And that's the golden synergy. Let them unhooks you from their drama. Let me connects you to your own responsibilities and choices. Mel warns, if let them makes you lonelier, you're doing it wrong. You can't just cut yourself off, ghost people, or refuse to have important conversations in the name of let them. This approach is meant to create healthier connections, not sever them. It's also not an excuse to let toxic behavior slide or to avoid standing up for yourself. If someone crosses your boundaries, let them means acknowledging they're responsible for their actions, but it also means you follow up with, let me, set a boundary or remove yourself from harm if needed. So Chapter 2 is where the light bulb moment occurs. If you felt that let them is incomplete, you're 100% correct. The full transformation happens once you move into let me. And that's how you build a life where you respect others, autonomy, and channel your energy toward what's actually in your control. Your thoughts, your habits, your boundaries, your next steps. Now that you see how these 2 chapters set the foundation, let's put it all into practical, everyday steps. Up next, we'll explore real-world, modern scenarios, and I'll share 5 actionable ways to bring let them plus let me to life. From group chats that drive you nuts to job interviews that stress you out, we'll walk through how you can immediately apply this 2-step solution. All right, let's pivot to the good stuff, application. Because let's face it, if you don't use these ideas in your actual life, they'll just be concepts floating around. Let's bring them down to earth with 5 specific steps or hacks that capture the essence of Part 1. Hack 1, the 3-second let them scan. Whenever you feel that hot flush of annoyance, anxiety, or panic over someone's behavior, take 3 seconds to silently say, let them, combined with a slow, calming breath. This mini pause stops you from instantly reacting. It interrupts your usual knee-jerk pattern of trying to fix or control the other person. Example: your partner snaps at you after a stressful day. Instead of firing back or rushing in with what's wrong, let me fix it. Take that 3-second breath. Let them feel cranky. Let them have their space. Then reapproach calmly later. Try it the next time your coworker or friend messages a snarky remark. Before you respond, do a little let them scan. You'll be shocked how often it transforms knee-jerk frustration into simple acceptance. Hack 2, the let me journal prompt. After every big emotional wave, especially when you've said let them, sit down and ask yourself, okay, but what does this reveal about me? What do I want my next step to be? Write a quick paragraph. No overthinking, just spill your feelings. You shift from external blaming to internal reflection. Journaling is proven to reduce stress by letting you process emotions in writing. Example: you see your old college buddies traveling without you on Instagram. FOMO hits hard. You say let them to release the blame. But next you journal. Am I upset because I actually want closer friendships? Am I ignoring my social life? Let me schedule a meetup with local friends. This reflection not only neutralizes envy but prompts constructive action. Hack 3, the boundary and release strategy. When faced with repeated situations where someone's behavior impacts you negatively, maybe a friend who always borrows money and never repays, practice 2 steps. Boundaries clearly communicate your personal limit, e.g., I won't be lending money anymore. Release, mentally let them decide how they'll respond. Stop trying to force them to agree. You handle your side of the street by stating your boundary. You lighten your mental load by not attaching yourself to whether they like it or not. Example: your sibling always borrows your streaming service passwords. You're sick of them changing your watch list or messing up your profile. First, set a boundary. Hey, I'm resetting my passwords and prefer you get your own subscription. Then let them have whatever reaction they have. Anger, annoyance, that's their side of the equation. Let me stand by my boundary calmly. Hack 4, the reverse worry list. Every time you catch yourself worrying about what someone else might think or do, reverse it by listing 2 things you can do for yourself instead. Essentially, for each external worry, you generate an internal action item. Worry is unproductive when it's about things you can't control. By reversing it, you transform anxious energy into self-focused growth. It reconditions your brain to see opportunities rather than fixations. If you're worried your coworkers won't like your presentation style, list 2 ways you can improve or build confidence, like practicing your slides aloud or adding a short Q&A to engage them. This flips the script from their opinion to your empowerment. Hack 5, the future self visualization. Before going into any challenging interaction, a difficult meeting, confronting a friend about an issue, spend 30 seconds imagining how your future self who has fully embraced, let them plus let me, would handle it. Picture yourself calm, assured, and prepared for any reaction the other person might have. Visualization is scientifically supported to enhance performance and reduce anxiety. You prime yourself to respond with the let them plus let me mindset, rather than falling into old patterns. Example, you have a tough conversation lined up with your supervisor. Instead of planning how to persuade them to see it your way, visualize stating your points clearly, then letting them react however they will. Meanwhile, you keep your composure and pivot to your next step, like exploring a new solution if your idea is rejected. We've arrived at the end of our deep dive into part 1 of the book, The Let Them Theory. Think about the journey we've taken. We explored Chapter 1, Stop Wasting Your Life on Things You Can't Control, witnessing how a single prom night meltdown turned into an international phenomenon. We ventured into Chapter 2, Let Them plus Let Me, understanding how let me is the essential second half that propels you forward rather than leaving you stuck in detachment. For too long, many of us have allowed other people's moods, opinions, or decisions to hijack our own well-being. We poured in so much energy trying to be perfect in everyone else's eyes, when ultimately we can't control how others interpret or react to our actions. We saw that letting them be who they are frees us from pointless stress, and then letting me do what's right for my life is what sparks true progress. One of the subtle themes from the prom story was how quickly time passes, like an ice cube melting away. We're so busy controlling that we miss the joys of the moment. Realize this: every minute you spend stressing over someone else's behavior is a minute less you spend celebrating your own life, your relationships, and your potential. Ever had that pang of seeing an old friend's photos, realizing how years slip by without you truly living the life you want? That feeling of I'm missing out on my own life because I'm too busy worrying about everyone else. The lessons from these chapters are your ticket to reclaiming those lost minutes, that lost energy. Imagine what changes if you really adopt, let them plus let me. Your relationships. Instead of micromanaging a partner's every habit, you can say, let them handle it, and then focus on how you choose to respond or improve. Paradoxically, people often become more open to positive change when they don't feel forced. Your career. When a coworker's negativity threatens your morale, you stop internalizing their mood. Let them be grumpy, and you keep your focus on your performance and goals. Your friendships. You stop expecting people to always invite you, and instead you become proactive, setting up gatherings or reaching out first. The ripple effects can be enormous. Once you're not tangled in everyone else's business, you have the bandwidth to refine your own passions, break personal records, and cultivate deeper, more genuine connections. Here's a revelation that might surprise you. Sometimes the biggest wins in life come from not engaging. By stepping back from petty drama or controlling urges, you create an emotional vacuum that you can fill with purpose, creativity, and self-growth. Let them is that gateway. Then let me is the path that leads you onward, toward your goals, your values, your truest self. That's the brilliance behind Mel Robbins' approach in these 2 chapters. It's not about ignoring people or giving up on compassion. It's about acknowledging that real compassion often means honoring others, freedom while honoring your own needs. It's acceptance plus responsibility in one tidy package. 3-part challenge for you. To help cement these insights, here's a quick challenge. This week, commit to using the 3-second let them scan whenever conflict or frustration arises. just once a day. Notice how it shifts your emotional state. By Friday, if you're up for it, drop a comment below about one situation where "let them" helped you breathe easier. Not only does sharing encourage your own progress, but you'll also inspire others to try it. Remember, the moment you decide you're done with the stress of controlling other people, you're opening a door to personal liberation. The idea that "let them" is halfway to "let me" is the next step, your freedom from giving your power away. On a lighter side, if you're feeling tense about applying these strategies, think of it like going to a restaurant. If the waiter hands you the wrong dish, you can either fume about it, recheck the order number and cause a scene, or you can calmly say, "Let them fix it or not," and then, "Let me see if I want to wait or just enjoy something new." Think back to any moment in the past week where you felt overshadowed by anxiety about someone else's reaction. Now imagine if, right at that moment, you could have said, "Let them be who they are," and then turned your attention inward. "Let me choose my own path." Hear the quiet peace in that statement. Let it give you courage to face tomorrow differently, knowing the only person you truly control is yourself, and that is enough to transform your entire life. If this resonates with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more insights, because we'll keep exploring ways to reduce stress, improve relationships, and champion mental wellness. Also, let me know in the comments, what's one area of your life where you'd love to apply "Let them" plus "Let me" right now? We're building a community of people supporting each other in living more freely, more authentically, and more joyfully. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me, uncovering part one of the "Let Them" theory by Mel Robbins. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, but most of all, stay empowered.